Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from Deltiasgaming.com. There's some hybrid changes coming in March for the Elder Scrolls Online. I'm here to give you a very simple rundown of what this looks like and how it can change your character. The too long didn't read version is you're going to have a lot of flexibility in the skills that you pick because of the dynamic scaling of this. It's going to change a lot of PvP builds, maybe a little bit of PvE, but here's what I found out and how you can use this information. This one sentence from the PTS changes a lot. Player abilities that scale with your offensive stats, such as weapon damage and max stamina, will now dynamically scale with your highest of your offensive stats. So what does this actually mean? I'm on the live server right now. The best example I can give you is on a Templar, specifically a stamina-based Templar, my Orc right here. If we put my tooltip over Resolving Vigor, I get 16,000 heals over 4 seconds. But what if I put my tooltip over Honor the Dead or the other Morth Breath of Life, and I get 8,181 heals off that burst heal? So the way it's scaling currently, the computer is kind of looking at that magic pool, that spell damage, to scale this in effectiveness. What it will look like going forward is, what's your highest? Stamina? Weapon damage? Magicka? It doesn't matter. What this means is you can dip in your off pool much more frequently for damage, resource sustain, burst healing. So let's go to the PTS and see how this changes. Now we're on the public test server. You can tell by the 3,600 champion points. We put our tooltip over Honor the Dead. Same exact magic cost, 4,360, but look at the healing done difference. 11,384. So it's scaling off of the highest offensive stat, which I've already told you, but you can see just how powerful this is. The way I see it right now is, in PvP context or even in PvE, stamina-based characters are going to gain access to a lot of burst healing, where magic characters are going to gain access to specific awesome executes like Executioner, stamina based, and then dual wield whirling blades. This is going to be really handy, especially in PvP. If your class doesn't have an execute, think Dragon Knights here with the 2H rocking Executioner. You're not going to be spamming Executioner per se. You might cast it 1 or 2 times to finish off a target, giving you a lot of flexibility in both stat pools. It's actually quite cool. The thing with PvE is a lot of folks are already running dual wield with a back bar destruction staff. What you might have happen with magic based DPS builds is running something like Rending Slash or another damage over time that's very, very strong from a 2H or a dual wield. But largely, I don't see that change in the top 1% meta, though I could be wrong. I'm not a parse warrior. I think in PvP, you're going to see a lot of folks running a back bar restoration staff with a lot of 2Hs and a lot of dual wields on the front, and you're already seeing that as hybrid builds are effective right now. The reason you might want to run a restoration staff on your back bar is you can do this fully charged heavy attack, get major mending, and then also you can restore a lot more resources, 30% when this passive's up. So if you're dipping into your off stat pool quite frequently, back bar resto has a really powerful carry ultimate, plus you can regenerate magic with that fully charged heavy attack. Another thing that changed, if we go to Fighters and Mages Guild, is the getting of both Major Savagery and Major Prophecy. So right now, Camo Hunter is kind of hybridized, along with Inner Light. So if you take one of these and slot them, you're going to get both the major buffs, which is kind of nice and frees up some options. What they did not change is the class identity of the minor buffs. So that was what I was worried about. You go in here, Illuminate. If a Templar casts Dawn's Wrath, everyone in your party gains minor sorcery, but that's unique for the Templar. So they didn't gut or take that away. So your Sorks are going to get their buff, the Nightblades are going to get their buff, meaning you're going to want to bring in these classes in a trial or raid or whatever you're doing, because these buffs are so dang important and you can't really get them for the group without having that specific class. So that's a good one. So what does this all mean? Basically, you're still not going to want to split up your stat pool, in my opinion. Attributes wise, weapon damage and spell damage, you're going to want to stack one predominantly and dip into your off stat for other things your class might not have, like an execute, a burst heal, or whatever. Remember, the effectiveness of your abilities scale and effectiveness off your dominant stat. So if you're like at the exact same level, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So what I recommend doing is still stacking one dominant source of damage, max stats, max weapon or spell damage or whatever you get, because not everything's hybridized. If we look at these potions, you're still going to get major brutality and major sorcery. You're not getting all 4 of them. So potions aren't specifically hybridized. Same thing with Munda Stones. If we get a look at my Munda Stone here, the warrior, increasing your weapon damage, not hybridized. We look at jewelry, weapon damage, you don't see weapon and spell damage there. Along with heavy attacks. If you fully charge heavy attack on a 2H or a dual wield, you're getting back stamina. Fully charge on a destruction staff, staff or resto, you're getting back magic. That's not hybridized. You don't get both stats back. And the really important one I want you to think about is like the synergies from shards or orbs. Remember that you're going to get back resources based off your highest max stat. So you're still going to want to stack one that's your predominant resource. Stamina builds, obviously stamina. Magic builds, obviously magic. But that off stat, magic or stamina, whatever you're playing, is very, very important because now you can use it for burst healing. You can use it for executes. You can use it for something your class doesn't have and very effective in right now. So I think some specific builds are going to change their consumables, possibly Mundus Stones and gear sets. What I foresee happening in a couple really good changes might be this smoked bear hunt. You can see this food gives you max stats, but it gives you recovery across the board. This is going to be super useful in PvP, and a lot of PvP sweats already run this. But going forward, if you're going to dip into that off stat pool, you're going to need a lot of recovery. Think of Stamina Nightblade, for instance. They need magic recovery because they're cloaking all the time. My Stam Templar might be using Breath of Life to heal all the time, so you're going to want something to recover that max stats. Another set I think is going to be meta or very popular is Wretched Vitality. This gives you stamina magic recovery when you cast a major and minor buff, and those buffs stack. Almost everyone in their class kit has a way to get a major and minor buff simultaneously. So you put an ability on your back bar that procs this, and you can keep it up 100% of the time, giving you insane magic recovery. You can also look to the High Elf for some off stat recovery, and I think that will be a really good meta race going forward. And this Torque of Tonal Constancy, how do you say that? Anyways, this mythic will come back, I think, in a favor, because if you're running out of resources in one stat pool, it ramps up your recovery in the other. So you can fiddle with your max stat pools, and like your off stat as a stamina build, you can keep it very low. So this is always dipping below 50%, proccing tons and tons of stamina recovery. Basically, there's a lot of things that are going to change. Predominantly, in my opinion, is going to be in PvP. PvE, you might switch one or two abilities out and you're back to doing your normal thing. But if you're somewhat casual or you like to do PvE and you're not doing all the sweaty trials, you're going to have a lot of flexibility in the abilities that you pick, specifically in resources, buffs, healing, and damage. Because if you're not doing a trial, these fights aren't lasting 3-4 minutes sitting there doing a parse. They're going to be 1 minute, 30 seconds, something like that. So you're able to cast 1, 2, 3 magic abilities instead of 20 or 30, like an execution phase for a Godslayer run. So what's my opinion on this? The pros of this are you have a lot of flexibility and creativity with your builds. In the PvP contest, I think it's amazing. I love that I have my off stat that can actually still heal me based on my primary stat. So it kind of fills in the gap of what your class doesn't have. Are you lacking an execute as a Magic Dragonite? Great, pick a 2H up. Are you lacking a big burst heal as a Stamplar? Or use your magic pool for burst healing. You can kind of like a puzzle piece, figure out what your build lacks and then slot in a weapon, a skill, or a gear set to match that well. What's the downsides? Well, it kind of homogenizes a lot of the classes. You're going to see everyone playing very, very similar, but isn't that the case already? I think for 99% of the population, this is a good change, and I'm excited about it because it gives me more creativity and making my builds work. Hope you got something out of this. Like, subscribe, leave me a comment, and come watch me on twitch.tv/Deltiasgaming, where I play and test this stuff live. Thanks for watching.